Hey guys, what's going on? ZeroArmada here with a little Blacklight Retribution commentary. Hopefully you guys have had an amazing New Year's Day. Happy New Year's to everyone out there. This video is basically going to be more of a guide regarding HRV, Hyper Reality Vision. And HRV is basically a limited time ability that gives you the ability to access and see everyone on the map, regardless if they're in cover or regardless if they're on the other side of the map. You can see them with HRV. It's essentially a legalized wall hack, and it's super duper mega imperative that you at least have a fundamental understanding of how to use HRV efficiently, because a lot of kind of Blacklights, a lot of it's based off of HRV. A lot of the moves that you decide to use or utilize, all your decision making, it's all predicated upon HRV. You find the matchup or you find a situation that you can exploit with HRV, and you go ahead and you use that knowledge to kind of put yourself in the best position to come out on top. So at the very end of this, at least you'll have a better knowledge of how to use HRV efficiently, and hopefully you'll see an improvement in your gameplay as a result. So to kind of go over some of the stuff, we're going to talk about stats, some theory stuff, and then we'll jump in the game and talk about some practical situations and kind of what you want to look for when you're in HRV. First things first, HRV has two stats. You have HRV, which is basically HRV duration, and you have the recharge rate. It's pretty self-explanatory. You have a duration and you have a recharge rate. Your duration will start going down once you're in HRV. It'll stop at whatever value it's at when you get out of HRV, or if you hit 0. And then you'll basically get forced out of HRV if you ever hit 0 duration. And then whatever value it's at, it'll kick back up to its specified starting HRV duration value based upon your recharge rate. So, for instance, 47.5 units of HRV I have in this example. If I get on HRV and get out of it and I'm at like 30 units, for instance, after a couple seconds, the recharge rate will kick it back up to 47.5 and 10 units per second. So that's pretty self-explanatory. There's three key factors that kind of determine your overall HRV efficiency in terms of your stats. First, you have the helmet, which is probably the biggest contributor to your HRV stats, as you can see. A lot of people like to go with the Foxcat helmet just because the recharge rate's really good on it. If you have a breach kit installed or equipped like I do, that'll also increase your duration and your recharge rate. And we'll just unequip it for a second, and you'll see I dropped from 47.5 to 40, and then 10 to 9.3. So that's a pretty noticeable gap when you have the breach kit installed and when you don't have it installed. And then data nodes also can be crafted for HRV stats and to give you, as you can see, a little benefit in there as well. So those are the three major contributors for HRV. Kind of one more thing though, just to kind of before I forget, really it's best to never hit 0 for your duration. It usually takes a lot longer to get back up to your starting HRV duration if you ever hit 0. Kind of what I recommend is take a snapshot of the battlefield within a couple seconds when you're in HRV and get out as soon as possible. Really learn to kind of get a photographic memory and to kind of get as much information out of HRV that you can in a little amount of time as possible. So that stuff's out of the way. Settings really quick, and then we'll jump in the game. Controls, or actually keybinds first. HRV default is set to V as the key binding, and then for control there's actually an HRV toggle. I have it set to enable because that's what I'm used to. It's kind of mostly user preference. If it's enabled, you press V to get in HRV, and you press V to get out of it. If it's disabled, you press V and you hold it to stay in HRV, and you let go of V once you want to get out of HRV. So that's mostly user preference for that in mind. And then we'll go into practice really quickly. I'll kind of talk you through some stuff. Two things to keep in mind. Don't trust HRV 100% of the time. If you have an HRV cloak, which I have right here, or if you have a blackout, which I just threw down right there, and you have an enemy player in a blackout, they can basically be invisible to HRV. So look for the actual blue force field, or if you actually hear an HRV cloak, which is this beeping sound, if you can hear it, that is what you want to look for an HRV cloak, and like I said, that's what you want to look for a blackout. Aside from that though, pretty much there's no other way to really evade HRV aside from those two items. But like I said, there's ways to evade HRV, so don't rely on HRV 100% of the time. So in general though, when you're HRVing, you want to use cover as best as possible. You never want to HRV out in the open, and I'll show you what happens when you do that, because it's not a good thing. So for instance, let me go over here. Let's just say I don't even know people are here. HRV right in the middle of the open. I can't even HRV out in a reasonable amount of time to actually even react. And really, what you want to do, find cover, find allies so you at least know that you're somewhat protected. HRV, and then before you even pop out, make sure you get out of HRV, and then you start shooting. Kind of something I have a bad habit of doing, and I shouldn't really be doing it, is I HRV and I start HRVing out as soon as I slide out. You want to wait to completely get out of HRV before you even attempt to slide out, because there's about a 2 or 3 second delay before you can start shooting. You cannot shoot while you're in HRV, and if you're trying to get out of HRV while you're trying to engage an enemy, that's really bad. You won't be able to react, and if the enemy's a good shot, you're pretty much screwed. So that's kind of one of the most fundamental things. Use HRV in cover. Make sure that you basically don't have your hands behind your back in a position where you're most vulnerable for enemy fire. So that's out of the way. Another kind of, I guess you can say, necessary skill for HRV is pre-firing. Learning how to pre-fire based off of visual cues that you see while you're in HRV is also something that you can really gain a good skill and a good acquired taste for, I guess you can say. So pretty much, let me just wait for HRV to recharge. So I'm behind the wall, using cover. I see an enemy right there. Pre-fire. I mean, it's simple as that. It's really simple, but it's just something that's mostly muscle memory. Something you have to get used to. Once again, that was kind of a bad example because I started shooting as soon as I popped up instead of pre-firing before. And that's something also right there that you saw. I kind of maneuvered while I was in HRV. That's something that's kind of, I haven't really seen taken for granted as much, but you can still move around and maneuver relatively well while you're in HRV. So definitely take advantage of that if you're in a position that's not good, and that you can kind of at least somewhat buy yourself time or buy yourself some space to get out of HRV while someone's firing at you. So that's also something to kind of look for. And then kind of something I think is probably good, it's just analyzing the battlefield in general. Like I said, I'm kind of just turning it on, turning it back off. I'm not really leaving it on to drain. And then what you want to do really is just analyze the battlefield and see what's your best point of attack. I kind of poked out to the left for that example because I only saw one person there, as opposed to poking out right there in the previous time when I had like 3 people right there. And then you probably want to like just go back and rewind that a bit. But the first time I HRV'd right here, I had 3 people aiming at me right here. So if I peeked out, I had cover here. If I peeked out, I had 3 people basically with their gun pointing at me. But seeing that I had a guy right by himself, like all by himself, and just pointing at me, that's probably was my best and probably only decision I could make to actually survive. So kind of decision making and stuff like that can really help you out. It's just a lot of it's just logic, just playing smart, kind of picking your fights wisely. Kind of what I see here, I see 2 people there and I see a bunch of people there. Obviously, let's go for the 2 people right there before I even attempt to go for the group of people. Maneuvering around while I'm in HRV, that probably saved my life right there because I couldn't shoot while I was in HRV. Again, I'm going to maneuver around before I actually engage, and this guy's just, bots are kind of crazy sometimes, I guess. But I think that's pretty much it. Like, a lot of stuff honestly is just something you develop kind of an instinctual habit for. And it's just something that you really have to kind of, through trial and error, of just kind of come across and kind of discover what's good and what's bad. So hopefully that's kind of mostly a good introduction to HRV and some things to look out for. If you have any questions or comments though, definitely leave them down below and I'll do my best to answer and kind of elaborate on anything if need be. And thanks for watching as always, guys. Much appreciated.